number 2 for the fall 21 semester. We are going to be discussing stretching techniques today. My name is Andy Sykes. I'm the strength and conditioning specialist here at Wichita State. With me today, my intern, Pravalika, and she's going to help me demo some of these exercises. Today, we're going to show you how to stretch and lengthen muscle tissue. And obviously, there are many muscles throughout the body, and we're not going to be able to demonstrate all of those today. So we're going to use the lats to actually demo and give you a few different examples of ways that you can lengthen the ability to raise your arm, as a lot of people struggle with mobility overhead, or different exercises that require a front rack where the elbow is lifted in front of you. So first off, stretching is used to either increase the length of a muscle or decrease muscle tension. Those are the main two reasons that we want to stretch. Okay, maybe you can't achieve a position that a certain exercise requires to maintain safety, and therefore we want to stretch and get range of motion that allows for that, so that you can stay safe. What it doesn't do is prevent injuries. Okay, there isn't a link of stretching actually preventing injuries unless that stretching allows you to create a better position for an exercise to actually be executed. Okay, but if you're just stretching, it will not just decrease the chances of injury. It is also about how you apply the warm-up into the movement prior to actually achieving it. So that sometimes can be a little bit of a myth that people think about just stretching is decreasing injury. No, it's just how you prepare the body for what you're actually going to do. If you're only doing static stretching and then you rapidly move and do explosive exercises, it doesn't matter how much stretching you do beforehand, there will be injury happening if your body is not prepared to do that. So in order to stretch the lats and show you this, first off, there are a few different types of exercise that we're going to be doing. The first is a dynamic stretch. This is how we warm up the muscle. We create increased body temperature, increased blood flow to that muscle area, and allow a lengthening to occur. So for the lats, and we're trying to get the lats, now the lats run from the lower hip and the spine up past the scapula and onto the inside of our humerus, okay? So they wrap around and come up here. So in order for that to get more activation and movement, we're gonna have a contraction and let it shorten, and then a lengthening to let it stretch and lengthen. So to do that dynamically and get some blood flow, get some movement, we're just gonna do some arm swings, okay? So we're just moving them up and back, and it doesn't matter how much range of motion that you have at this, whether you stop here and get tight, or you can go all the way as high as Pravalika. It is about what your muscle can do and trying to push it basically to its limits, to the point of discomfort, and getting more activation, more blood flow, more movement in that muscle tissue. So that's dynamic. This is great prior to exercise to get it warmed up. Static stretching is commonly used as well. This is better for the end of our movements when we're trying to create more lengthening, maybe even increase muscle damage at the end of a resistance training bout. We want to get a static stretch. Now we can do that many ways. Actually, let's demo on this box that we can get the lats to that far end range of motion, getting the insertion on the underside of the arm as far away from the origin at the hip as we can. So Pravalika is using just a box stretch here with the arms locked into position because the box is restricting that motion, and then getting a lengthening all the way through the spine, and even having some curvature in the spine to really lengthen it further is a way to do that. Now that's a static stretch. We can then make that into a PNF stretch, which is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. What that does is increases the demand on the muscle by activating some organs within the muscle tissue itself. So the GTOs, the Golgi tendon organs, will shut down muscle activity when tension becomes too high. And we're actually going to utilize that in creating more length. So you can do it in the same position by creating a nice hold and an isometric contraction against the box. So not only are you relaxing and allowing the muscle to stretch, but now you can push into this box and pull into it and have the muscle try to contract. So isometrically, it's not going to actually move, but you think the end range of motion that have been pulled apart in this position, and now we're asking the middle of the muscle to contract and pull. So it's not only getting pulled by the outsides, but the center of the muscle is pulling into and getting a double effect at creating lengthening. Okay, so we're pulling down, and you do this for 8 to 10 seconds. Maybe you might need a little more. 10 seconds normally pretty good on pulling down, and then once you've pulled for those 10, relax again and allow the muscle to stretch and breathe through that. So that would be the hold, relax method, one of the 3 methods of the PNF. The other method would be to use full range of motion. Now you won't be able to do this against a box. What I like to use is a resistance band. So we've got some up here. If Paraliki, you want to show grabbing that orange band. And the nice thing about the resistance bands is they can hold on to you. If you put your hands through, give it a rotation, and then hold into the hands, they're holding on to Paraliki now, and she can fully relax and allow the muscle to actually stretch. First off, we get into that stretch position, so we're getting the origin and the insertion as far away as possible. We actually want to keep the neutral position in our hands and don't let it roll over, because you're actually shortening the muscle. We want to lengthen the muscle, so supinate, and at least neutral or even more so in supination, but in that relaxed position. Then what we want to do is create a contraction through full range of motion. So we actually want to use the arms, pull the arms straight down towards the knees, and create contraction in that lat. And then we let it stretch, and go as far as we can in that stretch position. Then repeat it, come back, contract, getting that blood flow, getting the activation, and then it stretch through the full range of motion, and it's pulling her up in that position. So that's the second one, that's the hold, contract, relax. Okay, and then we have a third option, which on PNF, which is to use the opposite, the antagonist, in using reciprocal inhibition to create a further stretch occur. Now, in order to do that, we can use a band, but once we get to that position, we want to try to use our deltoids and even our traps to create further shoulder flexion away. So actually, let's demonstrate it on the box here. So first off, we go back to that stretch position that we started with. And we're getting, again, the normal stretch that happens here with static stretch. And then what we want to do is, once we've relaxed here, we want to try, let's do one arm at a time, we want to try to raise the arm up. So let's imagine the body almost as if it's going lower. We're going to create, using our muscle activation on the opposite side of the body, contract and actually cause a relaxation in that lat muscle. This is called reciprocal inhibition. When one muscle of the opposite muscle group contracts, the other has to relax to allow the motion to occur. We see that with the bicep has to relax when the tricep contracts, and when the bicep contracts, the tricep has to relax. They're the opposites. They do flexion extension in the elbow. That happens throughout the body. Our lats are opposite to our shoulders. So if we can use our shoulders to contract and raise the arm up, we actually shut down the activation of the lats and allow greater stretch to occur. Now you can do it here with that PNF, or you can do it with partner exercise where someone actually helps you create resistance as well with PNF. And then the third one I like to use is more resistance bands. Go ahead and grab these green bands. Now these are a lot stronger, and I like to use this for actually the first method of PNF, which is the hold relax. Now I like holding just something that is static, a strong resistance band. Now this is a 1 3/4 inches, so almost 2-inch band, pretty strong. What that allows you to do, once you start creating some lengthening action in this muscle tissue, if you do create any more degrees of motion, the band pulls it and keeps you at the furthest point of muscle length. So as you achieve it, it continually has maximum range of motion being pulled into that muscle tissue. So a great way to actually do that. The other option of creating further decreased tension or further muscle lengthening is to use some myofascial release techniques. Now there's a lot out there nowadays with the massage guns that are really popular, cupping, scraping, and foam rolling, or even deep tissue massage. Okay, all of these work by physically manipulating the muscle tissue and creating pressure points that the muscle has to not only stretch past, but actually get around. And so we've got a foam roller here, we're going to demonstrate this today. So go ahead, Paralika, and place that down on the ground. Now we've got to hit the tissue that we're trying to stretch. So first we get the arm up and have a stretched position. So the shoulders is flexed and it's elevated. And then we're going to lay on that muscle belly. And you think about when you roll dough, that's really what's happening. We're getting a pressure into that lat muscle while it's stretched. So again, we stretch it from origin to insertion, and then we add a middle element that's pushing on the tissue and rolling back and forth that muscle has to work around. Now you may find some trigger points that are a little bit more tender and painful. If you find those as you are rolling up and down that part on the back of the armpit for this lat stretch, you just want to hold for 8 to 10 seconds so that you can have some decrease in tension, it can release, and then you can continue moving. But if you find those trigger points, those painful areas, pause, try to breathe through it. So diaphragmatic breathing, get in through your nose, out through your mouth, and try to really desensitize yourself and relax. And that once that muscle tissue does decrease, that pain should subside, and you should be being able to continue with that movement. Again, these are great after you've warmed them up, okay? So you don't want to go in and do this cold when the muscle doesn't want to actually have any lengthening happening. We want blood flow, so the dynamic stretch always to start, even before the workout, maybe then do the workout and then do your static stretch. So what a workout does is fatigues the muscle. So if you can dynamically warm up the muscle tissue, then you actually work it out and fatigue it so it can't fight and be resist as much. Then the static stretch, the PNF, or even the foam roll has an easier job at creating more length and really manipulating that tissue so it can create more movement and more range of motion. So yeah, that's the three. You got static, dynamic, PNF, and myofascial release. All different ways that you can create more muscle lengthening, decrease tension to allow either greater ranges of motion, to achieve a position that you couldn't otherwise achieve for exercise. Again, with the lats, the common one is like the front rack position in a front squat or a hang clean, where you can't get those elbows forward because the lats are pulling it back down. So in order to do that, we stretch them out, increase that range of motion. Okay, then we're less likely to have an injury because we're not performing the exercise correctly. But again, stretching on its own right does not lead to an injury prevention, okay? It's all to do with what you're preparing the body to do and what you're asking, the stress you're putting on afterwards. Okay, I hope you found this useful. Of course, there are many muscles you can do it with. Lats is just one of the 200 plus that we have. So keep moving, and if you have any questions, let me know. Andy.sykes@wishart.edu. You can give me a contact, shoot me an email. If you're watching this for extra credit, we're going to do the code word today. Will be, let's do PNF stretching. Send me that, and we'll go ahead and get you the extra credit points. All right, thank you.